Some breaking news from Buckingham Palace this morning. This is sad news. Prince Philip has died at the age of 99. He passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Just last month, he was hospitalized. He'd been given surgery back in February, and last month he was hospitalized. He had to have a procedure for a pre-existing heart condition, but he is obviously the longtime patriarch of the royal family. He married then Princess Elizabeth back in 1947, so more than 70 years. And again, this is after a bout of illness and at the age of 99. But again, very sorry to report this. Squawk Box will be right back.
Princess Elizabeth and Lieutenant Mountbatten, looking very happy, thanked one guest after another for all the good wishes. And I feel sure they must have realized that at this time also, millions in Britain and the Commonwealth were thinking of them and their future. As the royal wedding draws near, the whole nation welcomes the opportunity of wishing long life and happiness to Her Royal Highness and to her fiancé.
It's been a challenge for us, but by trial and experience, I believe we have achieved a sensible division of labour and a good balance between our individual and joint interests. However, I think that the main lesson that we've learned is that tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage.
Includes a few shots taken during off-duty hours in the wardroom with some of his fellow officers. Princess drove and the Prince acted as fireman. Quite a thrill, no doubt.
Her tour cut short by the tragic passing of her father, Queen Elizabeth leaves the Argonaut. There is no ceremony, but all thoughts for her at this sorrowful homecoming.
He had a clear eye, and he could see what a waste of time to do it that way, or it might be better to do it this way. And I'm sure if he said it, which I have no doubt he would, I mean, why would you keep it to yourself when you have an opinion and you think it could be better?
Nobody had really thought about, and by the way, what is he going to do? And it took a little while to find people who understood that he had extraordinary experience and skills of his own that could be made very good use of. But he also found ways in which he could make an impact.
To have somebody, that you can confide in and smile about something which you couldn't perhaps smile about in public is very, very important. And to be able to share that with somebody is immensely important.
All too often, I fear Prince Philip has had to listen to me speaking. He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. And I and his whole family, and this and many other countries, owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim, or we shall ever know.
Together they embarked on an enduring and loving journey. Philip always respectfully a step behind his Queen. She first laid eyes on him as a 13-year-old girl, and it's said young Elizabeth knew he was the one. Of regal blood, Philip had a far from carefree upbringing. He was born on the Greek island of Corfu into a royal family imported from Denmark. A military coup in 1922 forced his family into exile. He grew up in France and Germany before being taken in by the Mountbattens when he was 7 years old. In a 2011 interview, the Prince was very matter-of-fact about his early life.
Well, I just lived my life. I mean, I haven't been trying to psychoanalyse myself all the time.
His uncle, Lord Louis Mountbatten, was to become the father figure he never had, and he followed him into the Navy at 18. That year, the naval cadet met the young Princess Elizabeth while she visited with her parents. He saw active service during the Second World War. Then, when the dashing naval officer returned to London, he and Elizabeth were secretly engaged.
This is the moment which the teeming millions have been awaiting for months.
In 1947, they married in Westminster Abbey.
I, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary.
Take thee, Philip.
Take thee, Philip.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
When King George VI died, the couple was in Kenya. On the way to Australia, Elizabeth became Queen.
I, Philip, will become your liege man of life and limb, and of earthly worship. In faith and truth I will bear unto you, to live and die, against all manner of folk, so help me God.
With the Queen's coronation, Philip's life changed forever. His naval career was over. He was now His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen's consort. He was no longer his wife's equal, but her subject, and he had to find a role for himself.
The trouble is that no two marriages are quite alike. However, I think that the main lesson that we've learned is that tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage. It may not be quite so important when things are going well, but it is absolutely vital when things get difficult. And you can take it from me that the Queen has the quality of tolerance and abundance.
When he wasn't supporting his wife at official functions and on state visits, he ran the royal estates and the family.
Like all families, we went through the full range of pleasures and tribulations of bringing up children. I'm naturally somewhat biased, but I think our children have done rather well under very different and difficult and demanding circumstances.
He became a moderniser at the heart of the British monarchy. Prince Philip was first member of the royal family to give a TV interview, and in 1957, the first to present his own television show.
40 minutes to get round the world.
He was a champion of the early environmental movement, but, in his words, not a bunny hugger. In 1956, he established the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. He's been a patron of nearly 800 organisations.
The media has practically no sense of humour about itself, so it's very difficult.
While giving only a handful of interviews over the years, Prince Philip has been a gift to the media, with his often indiscreet comments.
He caused something of furore when he asked a group of Aboriginal dancers if they still threw their spears at each other. Do you feel that the press has been unfair to you, has given you a bit of a hard time, misrepresented you?
I suppose, yes, occasionally, but I think that it has its own agenda, and that's it. You just have to live with it.
In times of trouble for the royal family, Prince Philip provided support and advice.
Take care of the boys, Mum.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing.
I know you did. Yeah, that's what you did.
When Princess Diana died, her sons were uncertain about walking behind her coffin. Philip told William, "If you don't walk, I think you'll regret it later. If I walk, will you walk with me?" On his 90th birthday in 2011, the Duke said he would slow down, but it wasn't to be. It was marked with the wedding of his grandson. historic visit to Ireland with the Queen and hosting the Obamas at Buckingham Palace. In 2012, during the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations, he was by her side again, doing a jaunty jig on the Thames. Now in his 90s, the Prince had several spells in hospital, but he always recovered. In May of 2017, the palace announced Prince Philip would withdraw from public life. He held the rank of Captain General of the Marines and watched on as the soldiers marched past and honoured him with a salute. One of Philip's final public engagements was to hand over his role as Colonel-in-Chief of an infantry regiment to the Duchess of Cornwall. Fiercely independent, he was still driving at 97 until he pulled out on a busy road outside the Queen's country estate Sandringham and was hit by a car that had right of way. The Prince's Land Rover overturned and he had to be pulled from the wreckage, declaring he was fine and asking if everyone was all right. He blamed sun glare for his mistake, but surrendered his licence a few weeks later, after being photographed driving without a seatbelt. Despite all of the controversies, he said he'd always done his bit as half of one of the most celebrated and enduring partnerships of modern times. The Queen said, simply, she couldn't have done it without him.
All too often, I fear Prince Philip has had to listen to me speaking. Frequently, we have discussed my intended speech beforehand, and as you will imagine, his views have been expressed in a forthright manner. He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.